What is going on, y'all? Robert Sykes, and I've got the little mini podcast going with my good friend, client's crew member, Greg, and we're going to just be going over some metrics as far as it pertains to a Dexa scan that we both recently did. He's in prep right now, and we get a lot of questions around body composition scans. What's that data telling you? How you can make actionable changes based off of that data. So we're going to roll up our sleeves and dive into our Dexa results and tell you some things that you should take note of, things you should look out for, all that good stuff. So let's roll the intro and dive in. Greg, how are you, man?
I'm good.
You good?
Good. What's up?
We're going to do a little deep dive on Dexa scan results right now. You're in prep. I'm doing like a mock prep at the end of, not the end of, but I'm in a building phase right now, post my 5 competitions in 2023. And we found the Dexa scanner. You're in prep, so we decided to get a whole baseline metric done, macros, body comp, blood work, the whole kit and caboodle. We got to go over. We got to do a podcast on this about the blood work too.
Yeah,
we haven't done that yet. But I get a ton of questions on Dexa scans, body comp scans, so we figured we would just make a little mini podcast, so to speak, on Dexa, our Dexa results personally, but then what you can glean. I've been using that word a lot lately.
You have that.
You didn't know that word. This is new to you.
You said glean something yesterday, and I was like, I have never heard that one. So.
Yeah. So Dexa scan results and what we can glean from that information.
Glean, yes.
So we got our scans. When did we get our scans?
That was on January 31st.
January 31st.
Yep.
We found a spot that's in Branson, Missouri. What was his business again?
Right Fitness and Nutrition. And his name was Adam Wright. Yep.
Adam Wright. Yeah, super cool guy. Anyways, he uses a GE brand Dexa scan. I've historically used a GE brand at Baptist Health in Central Arkansas. So it's same brand, but different metrics with it being a different machine. But let's just kind of dive into some of your metrics. And you started the prep beginning of the year for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, kind of early January. Yep.
This was basically data after 1 month of prep, but pretty much just establishing a baseline.
Yeah, because we hadn't really done any macro manipulation until maybe the second second week or third week. So
I did 2 weeks of same macros, and then the third and fourth week with slight adjustments.
Yep.
So real quick, just kind of go over some of your baseline stats before you even get into the Dexa, but just like age, height, weight, all that good stuff.
44 years old, 5'9", and my off season, I think the heaviest I got was let me just double check, 230, 235-ish, somewhere in there. A little bit fluffier and bigger than I like to be, but that was part of the agenda for putting on some lean tissue, putting on some mass, lifting heavy, eating more food. And I was roughly 17 to 18% body fat in my off season at around 230 pounds. That was kind of the height of the numbers, and that was with a home in-body scale.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then when you did your last competition season, that was 22 or 21?
23.
23.
Yep.
Wow, 23, yeah. What was your stage weight in 23?
Oh, boy. I know my stage weight in 21, the previous prep, was right around 181, 182. Yeah. And the more recent one, 23, I think I had a few pounds more on me that time. I think it was closer to mid-180s maybe. I don't think I was 190, but I was under 190.
And you never got a Dexa scan at the end of your cut then?
No.
So your lowest body fat as per in-body was what, 6%?
I think it was somewhere. It was, 6, 7, somewhere in the 6, 7 range. Yeah.
Yeah. And so basically for the listeners, you're starting your prep beginning of January, and you're doing multiple shows. You've got shows. What shows you got on the docket?
Well, I've got yours, of course. That's September in Fayetteville here. Then I'm going to do one 2 months prior to that in Wisconsin. That is a USBF show. That's a Wisconsin Warrior. I'm also eyeing up a OCB show in Minneapolis. That would be 2 weeks prior to your show here, so that'd be in September as well. And depending on how the season goes, we could throw another one in there. We could stick one in between all those. We could stick one after. We'll just kind of see. I mean, optimally or ideally, there'd be a pro card one somewhere along the way that I could then exercise maybe in a later show.
And if you get a pro card in the WNBF Federation, I'm going to twist your arm and have you do Worlds, which is all the way in November.
Yeah, that'd be
so
long.
that could potentially be an 11-month prep, which is insane.
Plus reverse diet.
Plus reverse dieting, which is not really what I would recommend, but since I'm interacting with you on a daily basis, I can push you further than I would like to push people.
Yeah.
And like we can just monitor how your health is, your blood metrics. Like we can have all that data and just make sure we're playing it safe still, which is good. Yeah. So if you get down to about 6% via in-body for your last prep at about 188, I want to say.
Yeah, let's say mid to upper 180s.
185 for simplicity's sake. And your heaviest was 235. That's quite a bit of weight to lose in a prep. And generally speaking, averaging about 1 pound loss per week is a pretty good place to kind of average. You're going to have some fluctuations where you don't lose any weight. You maybe gain weight. Then you're going to have a week where you drop 5 pounds. But if you're trending with an average of about 1 pound loss per week, that's relatively sustainable. You don't have to diet too aggressively to achieve that. You can ensure you're preserving muscle. So that's kind of what we're shooting for, which is why we've got a longer prep for you, because we have a little bit more weight to lose. But now turning to the Dexa results, what were your numbers showing?
Yeah, so based on the Dexa in January 31st, my levels were, let me pop open the right page here. Total body fat coming in right around 15.5%. And my weight at that time was right around 219 to 220. So 15.5 and right around 220. So if we're going to peel off 35-ish pounds off of that, I'm expecting to see that 15.5% body fat be cut in half or more and more.
And I want to get you leaner than you've ever gotten before. Like I want to get you, at least to 5%, because like when you go from 16% to 10%, that's hard, but it's not that hard. When you start going from 10 to 7%, that's getting hard. When you start going below 5-6%, that's when it's like brutal.
Yeah, it's super brutal. Yeah. And like you see way less response, way less progress over the same amount of time. Like when you peel off from even like 20% to 15%, that's fairly easy. Yeah. I shouldn't say easy, but it's easier. But when you get down in the single digits, it's a whole nother
ballgame. Yeah. Hair stops growing, stop going to the bathroom, things start shutting down, testosterone tanks. Not a healthy place to be.
I'm hoping mine doesn't tank too much. I mean, like just blood markers in general, because we got all that done. That'll be nice to take another reading closer to like peak week, that kind of thing. Yeah,
let's talk about that too. I mean, we're definitely going to make the Dexa the highlight of this conversation, but we're going to do a deep dive in blood work. But just on testosterone specifically, you're a lifetime natural competitor. We got a comprehensive panel done. When was that? Early January?
Was it early January, or it wasn't last year, was it? No, it was January.
No, I think it was like early to mid-January. But your total testosterone was north of 1,000. And then your free testosterone, do you remember what that was?
Oh, I don't remember.
It was high.
Yeah.
It was high.
It was high. Yeah.
So high that people started chiming in online and accusing you of taking gear, which is not the case.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And you're, like I said, 44. Like you said, 44. So natural competitor, 44 years old, no apparent issues with hormone production at all. So
I've never had any medical issues.
Yeah.
Like, literally.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I feel like, for me, you've got way better genetics for bodybuilding than me, man.
No, I would look at you and be like, you have better genetics. But
I get shredded, but you've got way more size than me, and your testosterone is significantly higher than mine. My baseline normal range is like 400 to 600 total testosterone. And then I've always had pretty high sex hormone binding globulin, so my free test is even lower. And then when I got down to 3.9%, my total test was at 89. So like, young girls had more testosterone than me. But
you had more
recouped.
Muscle than them, so
yeah, I guess. But it recouped after the reverse diet, bumped back up to normal levels. So as far as the Dexa goes, let's talk about what this shows, kind of what you can use this information for. So first of all, both you and I are showing, let me just go over my initial stats too. Yeah. So I'm 33 and 5'7", 5'8". I took this measurement at 187 pounds, so pretty much the same weight I am right now. And my total body fat, where is it at here? You get the online version.
I think yours, if you go one more page.
We got total body fat here, 18.5%, which is probably about accurate. I normally get to around 18%. When I was at 200 pounds this off season, though, I was a little too hefty for me. I was probably like 20, 21% at that point. Not necessary. So you're starting, leaner than me by 2-3 percentage points. but both you and I are showing to be obese, and
Oh yeah, BMI.
I'm overweight, I guess, via BMI. You're obese.
BMI is pretty archaic for
If you've got
that
any muscle
lift
at
weights.
all,
Yeah.
looking into the BMI metrics is pretty much skewed nonsense. But what I want to talk about is when was your prior Dexa? You got one at Jamie Seaman and Ben Seaman's place.
Oh man, that was
in Omaha.
Yeah, but that was that when we went to Omaha for the competition, or was it for the convention?
I think it was a convention because I think we left the convention.
Ben and I competed in the same show. Did we do a Dexa that weekend? I can't remember. I don't think we did.
I don't think y'all were dialed in for that show because I was doing my prep at that point. So you had already finished your prep, and you were more kind of in the building phase. If I remember correctly.
The show that we did in Omaha.
Did we get Dexas then though?
I don't think so. That's what I'm saying.
I think it was during the conference.
Okay, yeah.
But that was with a different brand Dexas too. That was with the I always draw a blank on that brand name. But that one always shows me at a higher body fat percentage. Do you remember what yours was?
I don't remember. But that's a super good topic because if you use different branded equipment, or you use even different locations of the same equipment, you might see a little bit of skewed, feedback or progress.
Yeah. I kind of want to embellish on that a little bit more. So like DEXA scans are the gold standard. Actually, technically, MRI is probably better. An autopsy is the best, but no one's probably going to be willing to die to get their body fat measured to do that. Don't recommend that modality. But DEXA is like the easily used gold standard. And doctors' offices use them for bone mineral density for patients with osteoporosis. But if you're using a different brand, of which there's two primary ones, GE and the other one, which I've drawn a blank on, that can have a crazy difference in readings. But what I found out, and I didn't know this, but the brand machine that I was using in Little Rock was always a GE, which is the same one we got in Branson, Missouri. So same brand, but significantly different results. So I feel like even if the brand's the same, the location and just that unit itself can vary drastically. So people always bounce around. They do like the traveling DEXA machines, and they'll go get a DEXA scan somewhere else, and they let that information totally make or break their day.
Yep.
I don't think that's a smart move. Like, regardless of what method you're using, whether it's in-body, calipers, bathroom scale, or DEXA scan, bod pod, whatever, you got to take everything that's given you with a grain of salt. Like, use the data, look at the data. But I mean, my last DEXA scan, this is the one from Little Rock. This is the one I used throughout the prep. It had me at, let's see here. I was looking at lean mass specifically, and it basically said that since March of 24 to January of 25, I lost 11 pounds of lean tissue. Now, lean tissue is not just skeletal muscle, it's everything that's not adipose tissue, but all of my lifting metrics are significantly higher than they were then. And if you're lifting more weight, it's not body fat that's moving it. So like that makes no sense either.
Right.
And you've primarily used in-bodies. How did your in-body compare to your DEXA results?
My home in-body was actually pretty close.
Yeah.
My DEXA, this one that we're just referring to recently, this January, showed me at 15.5% body fat. And that same morning, my in-body at home had me at 15.1.
Yeah.
So it's pretty close, within a half of a percentage point. However, my at-home in-body fluctuates all over the place sometimes. And it depends on when you take a reading, how hydrated you are, if you just got done training, all that kind of stuff. So there's influential factors no matter how you take a reading.
Yeah. And I feel like that's super important. Like, being consistent with the readings is good. You don't want to get a DEXA on a regular basis because they're expensive and it is a slight degree of radiation. But you got to take the metrics, look at the overall trends, but then recognize that there's going to be some discrepancies based off of type of machine and what you're using. However, as you pointed out, your in-body was pretty closely tracking to the DEXA results. So I think that's a totally, useful piece of information. If you have an in-body, it's much more accessible. It just fluctuates a lot based off of hydration levels and things of that nature. I also think the in-bodies are not nearly as accurate on the extremes. So like when you're crazy lean, they don't tend to be as accurate, or when you're like probably 30% body fat or higher, it seems to cause a lot more flux. So there's like a sweet spot of, I would say, probably 8 to 17, 20% where it's legitimately tracking pretty close to a DEXA.
Sure. Yep.
But yeah, DEXAs are interesting. What was your bone density was pretty high too,
Bone
right?
density, I guess, which page was that on?
Yeah, we've got, let's see here. I'm trying to look at my old scan and my new scan. But
I think you've got bone density printed out there somewhere though, right?
Yeah.
We also got an email regarding these results from Fitness City because they were the ones we actually scheduled the appointment through.
And it didn't even sync up with the printed results that we got from the
Yeah, it was a
location.
little bit different. I'm not sure how their system calculated the values out. But let me see if I can find it.
It rounds like all this different, like everybody uses different softwares. You've got the Dexa Fit, you've got the Fitness City, you've got the GE software itself, but they all kind of round differently, which we talked about that with the guy that was performing these tests. Because I asked him, if you remember, back when I was trying to get down to the leanest man alive and hit sub 4%, all of my body part regions, android, gyno, all that stuff was 3.7, 3.8, 3.9, but it rounded my total body fat up to 4.1.
Yeah.
So it rounds everything up. And when you're, that finesse with it, it kind of is inaccurate. But if every region's sub 4%, then I would say I'm sub 4%.
Yep. So here, my BMD, my bone mineral density, it's mineral density, right? Okay, that's what I thought. 1.407.
Yeah, so you get me beat on that.
It puts me in the 95th percentile for bone density.
And then it also showed our visceral fat too, right?
I don't think this one broke it down, but Adam did tell us that it's 10% of one of the readings. I forget which metric it was, but we both had pretty low visceral.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where that was on here. Yeah, I don't see it. But how much did we pay for this Dexa machine, this Dexa scan?
I think we paid, was it a little over 300 for 2 readings, something like that?
Yeah, 300 for 2 readings. And I've seen prices from anywhere from $30 a Dexa scan to like $250 a Dexa scan. So you probably wouldn't justify doing it on a regular basis. But the thing about Dexa scans is they don't measure changes in actual lean tissue that accurately. It also fluctuates depending on fluid retention. So if you're getting a measurement every 3 months, there may be times where you go in and it shows an increase in lean tissue, a decrease in lean tissue. So you can't really base the main point of this whole podcast, I think, is that we just want to showcase what the data says, but then not let it make or break your day. Because like same thing with the InBody. I've got a client that uses the InBody, same machines that we have, every single day, and it will drastically increase, drastically decrease on a regular occurring basis. And if it shows that they've increased in body fat and decreased in lean tissue,
they freak out.
They freak out, man.
Time.
They totally freak out. But like, you got to look at the actual, performance metric. That's why having performance metrics is so key, because if all of your strength markers are improving, you're not actually losing muscle tissue. So yeah, I just want that point to be driven home, because, having the pictures, having the measurements, the body part circumference measurements, having the training metrics, I put that on a higher pedestal than I do, the DEXA scan results, especially within a confined period of time. Because like I said, in less than a year, 2 different machines so that I had lost 11 pounds of lean tissue, but all of my lifting markers are better. My physique from pictures is better. You've obviously improved from what your last DEXA scan was. So you got to put a lot more stock in that than just the numbers.
Yeah, I think what you have to really prioritize is, what are your goals? What are you trying to improve on? Some people need to get stronger. Some people are power lifters. They're going to monitor their strength markers. You and I, we want to look better or come to the stage fuller or more size or more defined. So instead of obsessing over like the InBody results or the DEXA results, that's visual. We can see that. Like if we're dialed in and we're lean and we're vascular and we see striations and everything, the DEXA is not going to tell you that.
Yeah.
So people that are looking to grow in size, they can see that visually. They can see that on a scale. That doesn't matter what their body fat is. If they're just trying to put on size, strength, bodybuilding, speed, whatever if you're an athlete for a sport, those are the markers you really want to obsess over.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that matter in the long run.
Yeah, and like with muscle glycogen too, like a lot of ketogenic scientific studies having shown a drop in lean tissue. This is important. They're all based, not all of them, but most of them are based off of a sample size that has not really been following a ketogenic diet for any length of time. So they'll do like a 2-week, 4-week study. They'll take participants in a control group that's either standard American diet or carbohydrate, centric diet, or a mixed diet. Then they'll take a control or a test group of people following a ketogenic low carb diet that have not yet become fat adapted. They'll experience a significant drop in fluid and muscle glycogen and liver glycogen because they're not eating the carbs. Their body flushes out all that. Their sodium and potassium haven't had time to stabilize fully. And then that will all show a significant drop in lean tissue. Again, because lean tissue is everything that's not adipose tissue. But that doesn't necessarily mean their actual skeletal muscle mass has dropped at all. So a lot of these studies that show a drop in muscle with a ketogenic diet are not accurate studies. However, once you become deeply fat adapted, your ability to replenish and preserve muscle glycogen is on par with that of someone that's eating carbohydrates. So you've got to make sure you're fully adapted before you put any stock in what the Dexa or the InBody or any of these results show.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, there's that. What other... We're going to start doing these little mini podcasts on a regular basis because you're going to be doing a seriously long competition prep, and we get questions about body metrics, macro manipulation, electrolytes, refeeds, posing, divisions on a regular basis. You're a coach, I'm a coach, so we're going to probably crank out one of these little mini podcast episodes, I don't know, man, at least once a month, maybe bi-weekly, depending on how many questions we get. So as it pertains to anything competition prep related, change in body composition, reverse diet, things of that nature, anybody watching this, wherever the camera is, y'all should definitely, that camera there too, y'all should definitely drop your questions in the comment section of this video because we're going to be fielding these questions on a regular basis, especially as it pertains to this protocol for optimizing fat loss while preserving and building muscle in the context of a competition prep cycle. So it's going to be good stuff, man. I'm excited about it.
I am too.
This is also the maiden voyage of our new podcast studio. So
It's very nice.
I like it. We don't know what to put on TV yet. Maybe we'll get some questions that would make sense to pull stuff up on the screen. Right now we got some national parks going. But yeah, I'm stoked about it. We're going to have this rocking on a regular basis. We're going to be fielding some questions. And speaking of competitions, you're going to be doing our show.
Yes.
Natural State Savage competition, September 27th.
I'm going to try to win it.
I hope you win it.
But yeah,
I hope you win it. I can't judge it. I'm just promoting it. But anybody that's wanting to find a good show in September, if you're, trying to do a show, I recommend, depending on your starting position, at least 4 months, sometimes as long as 6, 7, maybe even 8 months of prep. So now would be a good time to start eyeing shows and looking at calendars in September is looking pretty good. So y'all should sign up for the Natural State Savage competition. What's the website for that one? naturalstatesavages.com. Boom, chakalaka.
We'll take it there. And that's a natural show, so you got to be a natural competitor. So it's polygraph, urinalysis, you got to be clean. WNBF, so it's a good federation, and we have an awesome venue.
It is a very cool venue.
Yep.
We're going all out with this competition. Yeah. And if anybody wants to follow you specifically for more updates, prep updates, meal prepped footage, all that good stuff, where do they go to find more about you?
You can find me on Instagram at KetoGreg80, and I have started putting weekly preps on there, or weekly updates on there for prep. I've just been doing some random meal stuff on there, some workout stuff on there, some reels, some FAQs, all kinds of stuff. So
yeah, so we'll definitely link out to that, make it easy for people to find you. Real quick, with the time we have left, you've been in prep since January 1st, basically. Your total weight is down how much?
It's been fluctuating. I dipped down into like 218, 219 at my lowest so far over the last month or so.
First official starting weight it wasn't the 235, it was
it was probably mid 220s. Yeah, mid 225, somewhere in there. But I did dip down at a loss of like 6 or 7 pounds from that. I've slowly kind of climbed a little bit back up. However, while that's all going on, my body fat has continuously trending downward.
Yeah.
So I even hopped on the InBody this morning and I was 13.8 or 13.9% body fat. So coming off of that showing 15 plus, it's looking good.
And even though your weight hadn't changed drastically, like you said, the InBody is showing an improvement. But like you can tell in how you feel, how your clothes are fitting, and the pictures. We've been taking weekly pictures, and you can tell a significant difference there. So like, this is why tracking multiple metrics on a daily, weekly, bi-weekly basis is so very important. Because if you were only, weighing in once a week, and you would see, you wouldn't see those fluctuations. You would just see maybe it went up after a week, maybe it went down, maybe it stayed the same. But like it would be very easy to like get in your head. And if you weren't taking pictures, you wouldn't be able to see those visual differences. So like I've got clients, you've got clients I know as well, where they're not very adherent to getting these other metrics like the body fat, like the pictures, like the measurements, like the scale weight, and they get so in their head they don't think anything's happening, but a lot's happening. And it's not atypical to see pretty stable weight for the first month or two. I think the first 10 weeks of my last prep, I only lost like 5 pounds or so, which is slow and arduous, but like there's a reason you start pretty conservatively with the macro changes, because you don't want to drop your macros, your calories off a cliff and have nowhere to go from there.
Right.
So
yep.
Playing the process one day at a time, man.
And just stick to it. Like, depending on, I mean, regardless of what the metrics are showing you, just stick to it. It's going to work. Yep. 100%.
All right, brother. We'll do many of these, so we're not going to make this one too long, but you're going to keep killing the prep, and I'm excited to see the end result, man.
Me too.
All right, y'all. Till next time.
Adios.